welcome to the first of our Dean's Distinguished Lecture Series this semester, and how exciting for us that we're back in person to be able to do this again. It's been quite a long time, and we were waiting for this opportunity, so welcome. This lecture also happens to be among the 40 events to represent and celebrate our 40th anniversary of Shaw. So we're really thrilled that you can participate with us today as we also celebrate the anniversary of our school. Before we get started, please remember and please know that this session is being recorded. We're being broadcast live on Zoom. So in addition to the 80 or so of us who are in the room, there's at least 100 and change more watching us on Zoom. So hi to those of you in the Zoom room, and we're so glad you could be with us virtually. This will also be recorded and shared on Shaw's YouTube channel following this session. So please know that we are being recorded. For those of you in the room who I have not yet met or have not yet worked with in class, good morning. My name is Leora Lands. I'm the Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs here for Shaw. I'm proud chair of our Master of Management in Hospitality program, and I'm an associate professor of the practice teaching digital marketing strategies and advanced strategic marketing. And I'm really honored and humbled to host this and to facilitate this conversation with you today. As some of you may know, Shaw presents this Dean's Distinguished Lecture Series to provide opportunities for all of our students and the wider BU and hospitality community. Some folks on the Zoom room are not necessarily students. We have industry also listening in, and we are very proud of that and welcome you to Shaw. The folks who we bring in here are accomplished, visionary leaders in the current state of hospitality today. And they're here to talk to us about the challenges, the opportunities, and their prognostications for the future. At this time, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our featured guest today, who will be interviewed by our own Dean Arun Upneja, and that's the CEO of Panera Bread, Mr. Niren Chaudhary. Niren has more than 25 years of international corporate leadership experience in the food retail and hospitality industry. He'll tell you himself more about that background. Let me just share a couple of the key highlights. Niren joined Panera from Krispy Kreme Doughnuts, where he served as Chief Operating Officer and President of the International Division. Prior to that, he spent 23 years at Yum Brands in a number of positions, including serving as President of Yum India, and most recently in the role of President of KFC Global, where he was responsible for 5,000 stores in 50 countries with $5 billion in revenue. And as you'll also see, he's a true Renaissance man. We're going to learn a lot more about his talents in addition to his business acumen. So please join me in another round of applause as we welcome Dean Upneja and Niren Chaudhary to our Shaw today.
Thank you, Professor Lands, and welcome to everyone who is in attendance today, finally in person at the School of Hospitality Administration, or Shaw as we like to call ourselves. I'm thrilled, like she said, to be here in person. And I know that there are many of you watching on Zoom. A warm welcome to all of you, whether you are in your office, in your room, in your house, or on the beach, or anywhere you like to be. And of course, a very warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Mr. Niren Chaudhary. So welcome to Shaw. So the intention of this series that we have is to uncover the person behind the title. We want to know who you are, where are you from, and we also want to go into a little bit about the experiences that have shaped to who you are today so that we get more insight into the decisions that you take. So let's start with who you are, where did you grow up, and who were you as a kid, and where did you go to college, and what did you study?
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. I love being with young leaders. I think you're leaders of the future. So really honored to be here, and I look forward to a really engaging and interesting chat. So just by way of a bit of a background, so I'm the CEO of Panera Brands that includes Panera Bread Caribou Coffee, and Einstein Bagels, including Brugger Bagels, which I know is out here. We have a total of about, I'd say about 4,000 stores, total system sales close to about $7 billion. And we're obviously in North America, but also in 10 markets outside of the country. It's easily the best job I've ever had, so I really deeply enjoy it. In terms of where I grew up, it was in India. Grew up in New Delhi, school there, college, did my MBA. Most of my initial decisions in life, I have to say, were accidents. You know, it was not sort of there was not deliberate thinking there. It was driven by important criteria such as where my best friends were going, or where the coolest kids used to hang out, and that's how I kind of took my early decisions. Did my masters, and my first job, I joined the hotels, Intercontinental Hotels in India. I was the front office manager, rooms division manager for a 600-room hotel in New Delhi. Early on in my career, I was about 24, 25, leading about 1,000 people in my first job, working for the House of Tatas. So that was my first job. So I think growing up in India, I'd say biggest influence for me, my parents, obviously. And I think the single biggest takeaway was that focus on effort, not on the result. You know, my father used to teach me that. We have this Indian philosophy of karma, which is be the very best version of who you can be and let the results take care of themselves. So pour yourself into the effort. So that I hold that value very close to my heart, and I work off of that. I think the second thing that really sort of stood out for me, my dad used to say to me that, do you know why you have 2 eyes and 2 ears and only 1 mouth? And I said, well, it would look pretty strange. It was the other way around. He said, no, because you must listen and you must look and observe 2 times more than what you say and speak. So leadership and impact is a lot about being still and observing and listening 2 times more than what you're saying to people. So I thought that was incredible. And then one other interesting learning for me in India in my early years at the hotel job was that the importance of doing business with integrity, the importance of doing things the right way, even though the environment might be very difficult. So I don't know if any of you have worked in India or in developing world. I think the environment tends to be quite challenging. But working for the House of Tatas, I realized that it is possible to do things the right way, even in a difficult environment, because integrity is a personal commitment. It is not what happens around you. It is what you choose to do every single day. So those are some of my
Fantastic. So
early thoughts.
Excellent. So your dad gave you very good grounding, but we are all curious to know if you really imbibed those lessons very early on, or were you a very serious state of the line kid, or were you naughty at some point as well?
Well, I think the most interesting thing I did in my life growing up was falling in love with my wife. So I was 16, she was 14. And when we were in the same school, and when I saw her walk down the corridor, I said, this is the woman I'm going to marry. She tells me now she didn't feel the same way. So for me, it was like love, dramatic love, intense love at first sight, but not for her. And then I think all the things that I ended up doing were inspired by my desire to win her love over. So I started playing the guitar, started doing martial arts, anything to attract her attention. And, you know, she's my best friend, and we've been married now for over 30 years, you know, been through a lot together, and I'm so grateful for her. So I think she has also had a big impact on me. I would say, as we all know, you know, people that you love inspire you in so many ways because you want to constantly win their affection and for them to feel that you're really, worth it. So I would say she as well. So was I a serious student? Well, academically, I was always, pretty good. I was always very conscientious, would like to study hard, work hard, but also play harder, you know?
Okay.
So I thought love has to be about, of course, loving life has to be about enjoying all aspects of life and experiencing that to the fullest so that you can unlock the full potential that you might have. So exploring and having adventure and trying different things was a big part of how I grew up, and the friendships that I kept. And that really shaped me, looking, exploring, trying new things, etc.
Now, you already answered my next question, which is what were your interests and hobbies? And you mentioned two of them, music and martial arts, which you probably are continuing to this day as well. And now we also know as to why you developed those habits were to impress her. So that was in 16 and 14, you were in school. So then how did you decide on your college and which college did you go to?
So I went to a college called St. Stephen's College. It's one of the premier colleges in India. Like I said, I chose it because it had the coolest kids. And I did economics because my best friend went to do economics. And then I wrote my MBA exams because everybody was studying for an MBA. So I think, I wasn't sort of very thoughtful, I have to say, about my decisions. It is not something that I recommend. I think you all are much smarter than I was back then. I think, obvious thing is to identify who you want to be, where you want to get to, and then make decisions that lead you up to that. I certainly didn't do that. But did my MBA from Delhi University and then landed up through a series of accidents into this hotel job. So I would say luck and just, this combination of intent, luck, also play a big part in where you end up. I do believe that your life is nothing but the end result of a series of decisions that you make, some accidentally and some, of course, deliberately. But, I realize that it is at the fulcrum of decision making that your life is being defined. So I think, therefore, realizing that and being very deliberate about those decisions is so important.
So he's being a little modest, but St. Stephen is probably among the top finest colleges. And it was my dream school as well. And I think 40 years later, I think I'm over it, not having to. Okay, so you studied economics and then MBA. And then you talked about your first job, and then eventually you landed up with the Taj Group. So how did you manage? And that's one thing that we share, because right after college, I started my journey with the Taj as well. And it was a very influential period in my life. So how did you get to the Taj, and how was that experience like?
Yeah, so like I said, that was the hotel I was mentioning, the 650-room hotel. My first job was with the Taj, or it was Intercontinental at that time. So after my MBA, I joined a service called the Tata Administrative Service. The House of Tatas is a $100 billion house in India, and they have businesses in almost every sector. So what they do is they hire future CEOs from MBA schools, put you through different Tata companies, and then allow you to choose where you want to go. So I went to IT, I went to finance, consumer goods, and hotels. I'll tell you this, I went to the hotel, and you're all in a hospitality school. I went there, I just loved the glamour and the luxury of hotel. The types of clients who were there, the fact that it was so people-focused. I just loved it. So that really inspired me. So I think that the people orientation of the hospitality industry, that's when it connected with me that this is where I want to spend my life. And, so spent a few years there, and then I went on to Yum Brands.
So yeah, Taj is just an amazing company. And just for those who don't know, TAS, Tata Administrative Services, it sounds more administration, but it's actually, like he said, the House of Tatas recruits absolutely the top talent, and they give them amazing training, and then they're put on a fast track to leadership. And any TAS alumni that you will see, they're all occupying senior positions. So obviously his talent was spotted by the House of Tatas pretty early on, and he got the opportunity at the Taj. So while you're going through and you talked about this people experience, and we're going to come back to that. But my question is, at that point, within the Taj or the House of Tatas or in the society, did you have any role models at that time, other than those school friends and the lady you were trying to impress?
Well, the role models, the chairman of the hotel group, Ajit Kerkar, was a larger than life figure. I mean, he was absolutely incredible. He was so smart, it was intimidating, because he had this ability to ask you a question that you didn't have an answer to. And he'll ask you some strange things like, how many bulbs are there in the lobby? Or what is the electricity consumption of the hotel? Or, strange things. So you would always kind of, wondering, is he going to catch me flat-footed? But I think he had this incredible way of always stretching you and expecting more from you, and, making you realize that there is always something that you don't know, and that you always should be learning, and constantly learning, was what I loved about him, and felt very inspired by that.
And Ajit Kerkar was just a legendary figure in Indian hospitality industry. He took that one hotel and made it into a global luxury brand. And I felt similarly intimidated in 1982 when I had my final interview with him. Just a great. So let's move on from there. You mentioned that you moved to the Yum brands. And Yum brands, everyone knows, is KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and they have a few others as well. So that's a very, very typical, American sort of more stereotypical than even apple pie. It's fast food, right? So what was the experience going from a global luxury brand to an American fast food company? And how did you consider that move?
Sure. So I don't know how many of you know about India. How many of you? Well, I'm really glad that the Indians know about India. So so for the rest of you, India is like 1.3 billion people. We have about 600 million people under the age of 30. We have 350 million gods. We have like 26 different languages. It's a crazy melting pot of humanity, a fascinating and a beautiful country. So I say that because it's a very distinct culture, right? So, and growing up, I was working for the Taj, the Intercon Hotel, which was, kind of right up there in terms of a job you could have. And suddenly I was asked by Yum Brands, which is Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. Never been to India. I didn't even know who they were. Coming and asking if I wanted to join them to start off the business as an operations leader in India. I didn't know what KFC was, or Pizza Hut, or Taco Bell, had no idea. But those days it used to be owned by PepsiCo. And PepsiCo had this big pull of being a very attractive potential employer. So I was intrigued, and one had this thing of, a multinational corporate, and you had this dreams of, well, I could possibly be on a world stage and I could learn a lot more and do a lot more. So I was very attracted to it. I still remember saying to Aditi, my wife, that, listen, they want me to work at KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know what it is. And this Pizza Hut thing, should I go for the interview? She said, what is it like? I said, well, it's like Wimpy's. I don't know, have you heard of Wimpy's? Wimpy's is a pretty third-rate burger chain in those days. And that was the only game in town. So I said, no, I haven't been there. So she and I decided to go to a Wimpy from the luxurious hotels and lobby of an intercontinental hotel, where I used to feel like a king. I used to feel this, I own this place. So we went in this little shack that was serving these burgers, fried burgers, in a dirty sort of a place. And she and I were looking at each other, and she said, do you want this? Is this where you want to come? I said, well, the opportunity is I can make it a lot better. It may not be that good, but maybe I can make it a lot better. I had no clue what I was talking about. But somehow I had this pull towards, I want to learn more. I want to do more. I want to put myself in unusual situations. I want to seek adventure. I want to explore. And I felt if I was with an international company, then I would possibly be on an international track, uh, meet some incredible leaders, push my craft more, and learn and grow a lot more. So that was really the attraction for me to look at Yum Brands. And I was on the ground floor. So think about this, in this massive country, there was no Pizza Hut, no Taco Bell, no KFC. I was one of the first people to join the company to set the business up. So I thought that would be a very good experience, to set up these global brands in a country as diverse and rich in tradition as India. So how do you take a American concept and make that successful in a different culture? So all of that, attracted me, and I joined the company.
So obviously, when you started with them, there were no stores. They did not have any. So after that long career, when you moved to the KFC, so how many stores did you leave in India when you moved out of there?
So in India, we went from 0 to close to 1,000 stores in about 10 years. So opened all 3 brands: Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell, and learned a lot. And most importantly was, as a global brand, how can you be a global brand but with a local heart? How can you still be global but be local in the way in which you connect and you execute the concept? It's a fantastic learning. And many things are different, many things are the same. So what should be the same and what should be different was some incredible learnings. So I'll give you a quick few interesting examples on what that means. Global brand, local heart. So KFC. It's a nightmare to open a chicken concept in India because 65% of the country is vegetarian. And the 35% who's non-vegetarian turns vegetarian for about 3 months in a year. I mean, how can you sell chicken? So what we did was, okay, so we got to and we had to stick to the knitting of what Colonel Sanders defined as the unique signature recipe, crunchy on the outside and sweet and juicy on the inside. So we came up with a vegetarian zinger sandwich, which is a cottage cheese, crunchy on the outside, had a secret sauce on the inside, and it kind of did very well because it attracted the vegetarian consumer. So example, Pizza Hut. Pizza, as you well know, is a food in India which is thought to be a snack. People say pizza, oh, okay, I'm snacking, because a meal has to be curry and rice and yogurt. And how can you say that I've had a pizza and I'm full and I've had dinner? It just doesn't work. So how do you, break into that mindset? So we came up with a concept called biritsa. Now, this biritsa was a biryani. I don't know if you know what a biryani is. Biryani is like a succulent sort of a rice dish with a lot of chicken inside, flavorful, covered on top with a pan crust, lightly sort of buttered, and then pushed through the oven, and then an arrabbiata sauce on the side. So you take the crust off, dip it in the sauce, grab some rice. So you have a biritsa, which was kind of a meal solution leveraging the pizza category. And finally, on Taco Bell, even harder. Indians have no idea what a taco is. They know a bell, but in a different context, as a bell in a temple or a bell somewhere else. So imagine trying to sell Taco Bell, not that easy. And also, the main product, as you know, in Taco Bell called quesadilla. Quesadilla in our local language means how expensive is it? So people come and say quesadilla means like, how expensive is it? So it's sort of an alien concept. So we had to come up with again, like a bridge product. So in India, you don't have like tacos, you have something called a kathi roll, which is like a cooked bread. So we came up, instead of a burrito, we came up with a kathito, which was like the Indian bread and all the goodness of the burrito ingredients inside. So then the Indians said, oh, kathi roll. Okay, I get that. I know what that means. So just some examples of fascinating experience, right? How do you localize the appeal of a global brand in a way that it connects with the local consumers and what's important to them.
Clearly, you've left Yum, but Yum has not left you. And
Oh, I love the company and the brand.
and just listening to this food is just making me so hungry now. When the American brands, when they're customized in India to appeal to the Indian palate, I mean, those things are just delicious. I just wish that there were some of those things available in the US as well. So you had a long career in Yum Brands and then on to KFC Global. What can you look back and say, these are the accomplishments that I'm most proud of
Sure.
in that company?
So I was with Yum, as you said, 23 years. So 10 years in India, 0 to 1,000 stores, but 10 equally fascinating years in Europe. I ran their business in Holland. Anybody here from Netherlands? Nobody? Good. So I can say that I speak Dutch. Anybody from Germany? I speak German too.
Excellent.
So I ran the business for Yum in Netherlands. I was the general manager or market general manager for KFC there. Then went to Germany, ran a business there, and then went to the UK in various operating roles. So I was in Europe for 10 years, and what a fabulous experience. I think what I learned there was that people are more similar than dissimilar across the world. We may look different, we may sound different, but if you push through that external differences deep inside, we have more in common than we realize. For example, all of us, I would say, are inspired by the same things. We all want to feel important. We want to be recognized. We want to do meaningful work. We want to be successful. We value respect. We value compassion. We value love. All of us, like the same things. So I found that real important realization that people are more similar. The second thing I realized was, as a leader and the outsider culturally, the responsibility was on me to adapt to the culture and not the other way around. That I had to be the one who would show up in a way I wanted others to show up and respond to me. That's why I learned the languages. That's why I worked very hard to understand the culture and pay really close attention to the differences. So people are similar, yet there are cultural and stylistic differences that you have to be sensitive to. So I'll give you a few funny stories. So anybody from the UK? I speak English too. The UK, so imagine, so I grew up in India. I'd never been outside the country. My first flight abroad was like when I was 26, 27 years old. And I still remember being so excited and writing a letter to my mother and saying, Mom, I'm actually in a plane, So going to the UK was quite sort of intimidating because it was a different culture. So it took me a while to understand that when my boss in the UK said to me, nice effort, he wasn't really praising my work. He was actually telling me that it was pretty damn shit, not good. Or if he said to me, I want to have a quiet word with you, it didn't mean that he wanted to develop his relationship with me. It meant he was going to give me a bollocking, So, and then I think in Holland, I realized that people are very sort of honest and upfront and straight, and people like to be consulted. So you lead by consensus. You ask people, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then you agree, and then you align and you go. But in Germany, if you try and do that, they think you're a very weak leader who has no idea if you're asking people. So you have to actually set the agenda and lead people in a different way. So these were really important lessons and learnings that are so interesting, to really sharpen one's repertoire of how you show up as a leader with people from different cultures. And then finally, I think my last role as the global president for KFC when I was in Dallas looking after about 5,000 stores across 50 countries. How do you really step back and across all these different countries, again, global brand, local heart, but the same culture, same values. How do you make sure that they actually move from one country to the other? That the Yum culture and Yum values transfer in the same way, despite the cultural differences of the countries that are hosting your brand. So we ranging from Japan to China to India to Africa. The Yum culture is the same, even though the culture of the country is very different. That's a fascinating, process. So my top learnings, I would say, when I look back, I love the company, as you can tell. I learned so much there. One of my biggest mentors and many of my friends and mentors and coaches are from Yum. So I'm still connected to them and I learn from them all the time. But I would say my biggest, when I look back at my time in Yum, um, my biggest sense of accomplishment is the leaders that I was able to help grow and make them much, much better and grow into much bigger roles so that they then moved around with their families and had better futures and they could unlock their dreams. I think that probably is the most fulfilling aspect of my career. Second, most fulfilling aspect is wherever I went, I had the ability to, an opportunity to give back to the communities in some way, whether it is the women and diversity agenda in India or other initiatives in Europe. That is always a very important part of what I did and I feel very, very proud of. And then, of course, just setting up a brand for success for many, many years and leaving behind businesses much better than how you found them is the kind of legacy that I feel good about.
I think there are two key things which I hope you're also taking away is the constant learning. I mean, every position you hear, this is what I learned from that position. This is what I'm learning and imbibing the local culture, and then also leaving his mark in all of these companies. So that's the hallmarks of a true leader. So thank you for that. I actually want to jump fast forward into after that, after you left Yum Brands, you went to Krispy Kreme. And you were there for a couple of years, and then you joined the Panera brand. So just talk a little bit about how did that transition happen to Krispy Kreme and then on to Panera.
Sure. So after 23 years with Yum Brands, I felt the need for change, and we'll talk about that in a bit as to what triggered my career moves. But I was very drawn to JAB. I don't know if you know them, investment fund. It's a $140 billion fund, one of the largest in the world. And I joined them as an operating partner, which means that I actually invest in the companies that I run. That's the JAB model. So I joined Krispy Kreme Doughnuts. Always loved. How many, are you all familiar with Krispy Kreme? How many of you like it? What a relief. Thank you. Krispy Kreme Doughnuts. So I've always loved the company and the quality of the products. And in fact, if you see the what's common in my career is that I always get drawn to high quality brands that believe in the highest quality product with the highest quality ingredients, irrespective of what business they are in. It could be chicken, it could be pizza, whatever it is, it's the highest quality. So Krispy Kreme was that. So I was a chief operating officer president for that company, much smaller than Yum Brands, and I was in London. So I went from a large organization to a business that was about $1.5 billion, smaller business. And I loved it. I was suddenly down to a team of one, essentially me, sitting in a room in WeWork in London and trying to run about 35 different markets and building the team, building the culture, growing the business. Fascinating. Again, so the common theme for me is what drives me is learning, which means doing different things, putting yourself in different situations where you feel uncomfortable, and then coming on top of it. So that's what. And then the second thing that drives me is impact. Can I make a difference? What I inherit, I want to leave it better than when I found it. So I had an absolute blast selling Krispy Kreme Doughnuts out of a briefcase from London, peddling that all over the world, 35 countries, and seeing the magic of that brand, the smiles, that every time you say Krispy Kreme or you have a donut in front of you, it makes people happy. So I really enjoyed that. And then 2019, I was in London and I was asked by JAB partners, would you like to go and run Panera? And I had to really hold my excitement down. I appeared to be very much in control and said, I have to think about it. But I knew I'm gonna run through the door for this brand, Panera Bread. How many of you like Panera Bread? That's great. I think fewer people than Krispy Kreme. Now, come on. So Panera Bread, it's a brand I've loved and admired. It's a brand that resonates with my personal values. It's a brand, by the way, I'm not exaggerating. I eat it every single day. I could eat it twice a day if my wife would let me. She says, "Where do you want to go out to eat?" I say, "Panera Bread." You know, when we go to different cities in the country, where do you want to go and see? Panera Bread. You know, it's like. Um, but I joined them in 2019, and I just tell you, this is the best job I've ever had. It's the best company, and most of all for the values that the brand stands for. And it is very simply this: Panera Bread is in the relentless pursuit of good eating. Relentless, which means food has to taste good, but also has to be good for your body. You know, it's not enough to have great tasting food, it also have to have great ingredients that you feel good about eating. And I think that's what's so spectacular about this brand.
Thank you. And also welcome to Meher and Mia. Um, so I want to shift a little bit, pivot to the pandemic that, so you came to Panera Brands in 2019, and obviously you had some hopes and aspirations and dreams as to what you're going to do with the brand. But then very soon thereafter, the pandemic hit. And I've, read some stories about how you took care of the people there. So can you just briefly describe how did you take care of the employees at that point?
Sure. So I think it was not a bed of roses coming into Panera. After that initial excitement, I had to go and convince my wife. I had promised her we will never ever move again when we bought an apartment in London. Note to self: never make promises to your wife that you can't keep. Um, but she's always been such a fantastic support to me in every decision I've made, and I could not achieve anything without her. So she agreed. She said, "Okay, I know how much you love Panera. Okay, we'll relocate to Boston." We never lived in Boston, never really lived or worked in the US in this way. I was in Dallas, of course. So a lot of new stuff. But here's the thing: I was walking into the footsteps of one of the most incredibly talented founder CEOs, Ron Shaich, who founded Panera Bread from the first store and took it up to about 2,000 stores in 30 years. He created the brand. I mean, that is incredible. And so when JB acquired the brand, he retired, and the business was stalling. And I came in, and I'm like intimidated by people must be thinking, who's this guy? He's done fried chicken, fried pizza, fried donuts. Is he the natural choice for Panera Bread? Couldn't we get somebody better? So it was intimidating. And I think it took me about a year to get my head around it, build relationships, get to know people, and start defining the transformation agenda. Just when I thought we had the transformation agenda, and Barry, my friend, is here. He knows, he's been a close partner on that. I thought, okay, we're going to transform the brand. We know what to do, and we're going to transform the culture, make it stronger. And it's just feeling sort of settled and good. And bang, we got absolutely demolished by the pandemic. So I still remember in the first week, from one day to the next, we had lost more than half of our business. Boom, gone. Because, Panera Bread, in the 2,000 odd cafes, more than 50% of our business comes from people inside the cafe, unlike many other brands who have, drive-throughs and stuff like that. So we were badly hit. But I'm so proud of the team, the way in which we came together, because very often crisis, if nurtured and harnessed, can become a catalyst for transformation. And that's what happened at Panera. This crisis became a catalyst for us to come together as a team, as a culture, more resolute in our determination to get stronger because of the pandemic. And we had this metaphor we used to use of being a windmill. So when there's a furious storm outside, we want to be like a windmill that harnesses the fury of the storm and converts that into something that is positive, and not jump into the nearest bunker and wait for the storm to blow over. So that was the mindset. And we said, well, how can we use this to become stronger faster? And that's what we did. The team came together, and we are emerging from the pandemic as a stronger brand, stronger business model, stronger culture, stronger team, because of the following things. We simplified the menu dramatically. We pivoted strongly to off-premise. So we went from, say, 60 odd percent off-premise to close to 85% right now is off-premise. By off-premise, I mean delivery, drive-through, rapid pickup, curbside, and so on. We focused heavily on e-commerce. We went from 30 odd percent e-commerce of our total sales to now more than 45%, more than $2 billion we do on the mobile device on e-commerce. So simpler, more off-premise, more digital. And then what is counterintuitive is furious innovation in the pandemic. Counterintuitive. How do you innovate when you're sitting behind a Zoom screen? You can't even be in the same room with your chef and think about these ideas. But in the pandemic, we launched the flatbread pizza. I don't know how many have tried. Anybody tried it? Do you like it? Oh, that's a. So the flatbread pizza we launched, imagine in the middle of the pandemic without really tasting it. And we launched it and we just said, this is what the consumer is looking for, and boom. And then we launched the coffee subscription program. I don't know how many of you are subscribers. A few. Those who are not, here's a plug, $8.99 a month, drink unlimited coffee at Panera Bread. Why would you go elsewhere? So we launched the coffee subscription program, which is a big disruptor. So simpler, more off-premise, more e-commerce, rapid-fire innovation, and that has helped our business. So just to give you a sense, between coffee and pizza, we are now the #1 pizza brand in the country in fast casual. 6 months later. And we are the #4 coffee brand in the country, starting from zero. So I think it's been a very, very successful launch. So we did well on the business side, but here's the important thing. All of us, and I'm sure you as well, felt this conflicting emotion of, on the one hand, anxiety and concern of what was happening, because it's an unprecedented crisis. It's a health crisis, economic and humanitarian crisis. But at the same time, we all felt more connected to our families, more committed to our community, and more responsible for planet Earth. I certainly did. I know our team at Panera certainly. You had both of those emotions. And therefore, we said, we must do what's right for our community and for our people and for our customers. And we must build trust in this difficult time. We can't just be preserving our business and protecting cash. We have to actually step up and do the right thing and build trust with our associates and customers and community. So I'll give you a few quick examples. We had to furlough about 35,000 people, but we did an arrangement with Walmart and CVS to hire our furloughed employees temporarily and then return them back to us. So as an example of, doing more to build trust. For the customers, we launched curbside across 1,000 stores in 5 days. And we launched the grocery business, Panera grocery business, in 10 days flat, a new line of business, because the customers wanted it. And on the community side, we serve doctors and nurses in New York at the peak of the pandemic. We launched a school meal program in the state of Ohio in collaboration with the USDA. And then we pledged and served 500,000 American families through Feeding America because of the hunger challenge that we had. So we really not only recovered our business, but we thought it important and a moral imperative for us to step up and do the right thing. Do the right thing for the business, but also the right thing for our associates, customers, and community.
Thank you. I hope that you guys were listening. We say we are in the hospitality. It's a people business. And a lot of people at that time, 35,000, were working for Panera, and they were obviously getting their paycheck. They were paying their mortgages and utilities, taking care of their families. And that's the point when he stepped up and said, we are going to take care of you. And he arranged for that alternative employment. And I think this is a hallmark of a true leader who takes care of his or her people. So I think this deserves a big round of applause. So I want to switch, since we are running low on time, I want to switch to a little step back and talk about your personal life that you've talked in the past. Your daughter, who is an inspiration, who did the TEDx talk and has written this book, and there's a movie made on your life as well. So she passed away at the age of 18 in 2015, 6 years ago. But while she was growing up, those were some very difficult times for you and your family. You had to take care of her, and you have another son that you take care of, taking care of the family while also paying attention. So where did you find, and how did you find the strength and the resolve to be so resilient and take care of all of the responsibilities that you had?
Well, I think so. I think just to share with all of you, I've lost two of my daughters. My first daughter, I lost her. Her name was Tanya when I was in the hotel business. And interestingly, both the job shifts I've done were triggered by a loss of a child. So when I left the Tatas and the Intercon Hotel to join Yum, that was the time I lost my first daughter uh, to an immune situation. And then I think fast forward many years later, I lost Aisha. As you said, she died when she was 18 of pulmonary fibrosis. Aisha knew that she's going to die when she was 13, and we told her that there was no cure. So for 5 years, she lived knowing that she's going to die. But it was the way in which she lived and she lit up the skies that truly inspires me. So just listen to this. So Aisha achieved, I think, more in her short life than many of us do in our lifetime. And she is a celebrated inspirational speaker on TED. So if you Google my daughter, Aisha, Aisha, you will find two of her talks that have over 1 million hits. Ironically, she talks about happiness and all of this at a time when she was very, very sick herself. She's a best-selling author of this book called My Little Epiphanies here, a book that she wrote in the last 60 days when she was dying. It's a collection of her thoughts in her mind and how she felt about, finally sort of dying. And you can imagine how challenging that would have been for her. And then finally, because of the kind of person that she was, there's a movie made inspired by her. It's called The Sky is Pink. It's on Netflix. It's the best movie in the world. So if you want to, please do watch it. And I think if I were to say my daughters, what have they taught me and what I want to share with you are three things. One is courage, which is the ability to be resilient, that life will knock you down, but you've got to stand up and fight again. You get knocked down again, but you get up again, you knock down again, and you get up again. And you get up again by focusing on what you have control over, not what's happening to you. That's the first thing that I've learned from her. The second is the magic of gratitude. That a lot of bad are happening, but a lot of good things will happen, are happening. Let's not forget to look at the good, that we are so weighed down by the bad. Let's look at, for everyday miracles, the fact that we're all sitting here, we are alive. We have good health. We have our life and future to look forward to. Let's take a moment and really recognize that. Be grateful for the people in our lives. Be grateful for all that we have. So that was the second thing. And the third is that true joy is in the act of giving. My daughter writes in a book, if you can't change your own life, there's always someone else's. And I'm therefore, I live with that. I want to always give. I want to pay it forward. I want to connect with people. I want to sort of share. I want to do what I can to contribute and give back to the community. And that's what kind of drives me with the stuff that I talked about during the pandemic or, earlier on in my career, compassion, lead with compassion. So those were, I would say, the key learnings. I think your question on where do you get the strength from? I think I just got the strength from my children to see how they dealt with such an unfair hand and how they lived. And if they could do that, I had no business, feeling sorry for myself. And that I had to show up in a better way for her, but also for the others that I love in my life. And, constantly try and be the best version of myself every single day.
Thank you, Niren. It's really a powerful story. And I have watched the TED Talks and I've read the book and I watched the movie, and she is an incredible person. So since we are very close to the end and we are a nice, young, fun school, we have some rapid fire questions, some fun questions for you. So let's start with some easy ones. So what's your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, I would say I love London. London easily.
What's a TV series or a book recommendation?
TV series keeps changing all the time. I think the Squid Game these days. Right?
There are a couple of other questions which are probably harder question and which might get you in some trouble somewhere, but it doesn't matter. You can handle it, hopefully. So this is the moment of truth. What's your favorite Panera sandwich?
Oh, so many.
I asked for one.
Chipotle chicken avocado, milked.
Okay. The questions get harder. Sorry, Niren, but Panera coffee or Caribou coffee?
Ooh.
Yeah. And this will be on YouTube. Okay.
It'll be on YouTube. Oh, I have to say Caribou coffee.
Okay. He's going back to the office today, right? Panera headquarters. Okay. Okay, another one. Einstein bagels or Panera bagels? Or Ruger bagels?
Well, I think so different. I would say Einstein bagel sandwiches are unmatched because Panera does not have bagel sandwiches. So I'm pretty safe.
So the last question here, since you're a musician, you sing and you play the guitar, if you could play with any band in the world, which one would it be?
Oh, it would have to be Rolling Stones because that's the only way I'll feel young.
Okay. So I kind of knew that, and I had already looked into your background. So we called up Rolling Stones and they said we are happy to give him an audition. So here is your chance. If you're interested, you can give an audition right here.
Okay. All right.
Let's have an audition, right?
Okay, what I thought I'd do is, by the way, this is a special guitar. It has my daughter's face on it. One of my friends, when she passed away, took this guitar away and then painted her, and therefore it's very special to me. So I thought what I'll do is I'll do some of my own songs and own Panera songs. So the thing is, I get very inspired by Panera bread, and one of our core cultures at Panera is to have fun. To be your authentic self, not to take yourself or life too seriously. Have tons of fun as you do that. So when we launched coffee subscription, I wrote a song. When we launched flatbread pizza, I wrote another song. And then my innovation team asked me, hey, we have this mindset at Panera of always being on the blue train. Blue train means happy train. Blue train means creative train. Always to think in possibilities, not in barriers. Can you make a song? So that's another song, So I'll give you a little bit from each of those three. So it's a coffee song first. Everybody deserves a great cup of coffee. Why is coffee so damn expensive? Panera's got great coffee. We will make it accessible. We will make it accessible to everybody. everybody. That was the coffee song. Then came the time for the flatbread pizza, and you love flatbread pizza. So maybe you want to do a little bit of a... You want to come here and do it?
Oh, no.
Double zero dough ingredients that are fresh. Messy abundance crafted by a chef. Chicken cheese margarita, Panera's got for you. Flatbread pizza. Flatbread pizza. Sing with me. Flatbread pizza. Flatbread pizza. Flatbread pizza. Panera's got for you flatbread pizza. Oh, you're gonna kick me out. I'm gonna do the last one, the Blue Train song. So this is the, is it okay? Okay. Reluctantly, they say, okay, go ahead. You're going to blow the time. So the Blue Train song is the song about Panera's spirit, that we're always thinking in possibilities and creativity and innovation. So. Panera's Blue Train coming, Blue Train's coming now. Panera's Blue Train coming, Blue Train's coming now. It's not a question of if, just a question of how. Panera's Blue Train coming, Blue Train coming now. Panera's Blue Train coming, Blue Train's coming now. It's not a question of if, just a question of how. Blue Train coming, Blue Train a coming. Blue Train coming and Blue Train a coming. And now, ooh, ooh, ooh. Blue Train's coming now. Yeah. Competition, better watch out. Blue Train's coming now. Competition, better watch out. Blue Train's coming now. If you don't get out of the way, you'll be flattened to the ground. Thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't know about all of you, but please a standing ovation for the CEO. This is unbelievable.
Thank you, everybody. Good. I look forward to staying in touch. I'm on LinkedIn and stuff like that. If you have questions, shoot them my way. And keep eating Panera. Sign up for coffee subscription. Eat flatbread pizza. And sing the Blue Train song.
Just a couple of closing thoughts before we wrap up. First of all, Niren, you are an incredible human being, as well as an incredible inspiration to all of us. So this was a joy. Thank you, very much.
Thank you.
I invite everyone to come back, same place, same time next week. We're going to be welcoming Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, the CEO of Celebrity Cruise Lines, for our Deane's Distinguished Lecture Series again. And now I want to invite all of you to join us, to have a chance to be in the reception, to meet with Niren for a little bit of time so we could all enjoy some conversation and enjoy some good food. And thank you very much for being with us today. This was really a wonderful kickoff to our series. Thank you so much.